It went through my spine, through me, up in the air, and there was this slight buzzing at the ear, and I felt myself pop out of the body. Then I felt myself float up to the ceiling, and the doctor and the nurse came there, and he was looking at me and said, "She's coming, she's scared."
And I was taken to hospital. Doctors did anything they could to help me, but I was declared dead.
I realized I was out of my body when I was suddenly looking at the light.
I heard that like except the most amazing people I've ever been in the presence of.
It was just total selflessness, understanding, kindness, all-consuming love, wonderful love.
After a time in this life, all of these people have to pay a return trip back. And what they tell us is that the reason they chose to come back was not for themselves, because for themselves, they would rather have stayed with this presence of love. When they do return, incidentally, then the story becomes very interesting from the point of view of human psychology, because we find that these patients are profoundly changed, that they are imbued with a totally new value structure, that whatever in their lives before they have been chasing, whether it was money or power or fame or any of these other things that people seek, they say that after this experience, their value primarily is to love others, to seek loving relationships with their fellow human beings. And also they tell us that they have no more fear of death whatsoever.
I was shocked when I got that phone call. One that nobody ever wants or ever really expects to get. There's just so many feelings that I really want to share. I just want to feel it. I'll see you soon. Mom, I love you. My dad was fighting for every breath of life, and it didn't look very hopeful. Even though we lived 600 miles apart and only saw each other on holidays, at least we were on the same planet. And we could pick up the phone and say hello. The likelihood of losing all that seemed almost impossible to grasp. I'm so sorry to hear about what you're going through. I know you love it, but you gave us a good scare. Dear Dad, I'm writing you this letter because I don't know if I'll ever see you again, yet I have so much I want to say. Dad, do you remember several years ago when I was still grieving over the death of Suzanne? I found a great deal of comfort in some books I was reading about dying. It was at that time that I met a doctor of psychiatry and a researcher named Dr. Randy Moody. I was studying a copy of a book that he wrote, which was a great deal of help to me then. Dr. Moody has observed a pattern that occurs in people the world over, regardless of their culture or religion.
As a matter of fact, the prior religious beliefs or background of the person doesn't seem to have much to do with whether or not they have an experience, or even the content of the experience. We've even had people who say that prior to their experience they were atheists or agnostics, who have very beautiful and full-blown near-death experiences.
And do they remain atheists or agnostics?
Not at all. Once they come back, they tell us that they're totally transformed and they have no more doubt whatsoever that there is a God and that there is a life after death.
It's about his research on the stories of people who have approached death, many of whom actually had the experience of dying and then were revived and lived to tell about it.
What happened is I felt like I'd been hit by a train. But what had happened was I was talking on the phone, holding the telephone like this. Lightning came down the phone line, entered my neck. It went through my spine, threw me up in the air. As it threw me in the air, it knocked me out of my shoes and welded the nails in the heels of my shoes to the nails in the floor, which is how I was grounded and I didn't explode.
Before I shot myself, I measured like we did in CPR to find where the heart was. And that's where I just took the barrel and put it up against my chest and pulled the trigger.
I had not responded to treatment. I was getting worse. And the doctor had told me to sleep. And at this point, he said, I've lost her. She's gone. And I thought, well, who's he talking about? But just before this, I had been in terrible pain. I was just hurting so bad. I wanted to get away from it.
15 minutes before I was being picked up by a Jeep, I was discovered to have a temperature of 106.5, and instead of waiting for the Jeep, the captain in charge of the ward took me over to the X-ray, and the last thing I remember was the captain in charge of the X-ray asking me, but I thought I could send him long enough for him to get a picture of my chest. And I remember hearing an X-ray making that peculiar whirring sound, and then it clicked, and I told her I collapsed in the heat.
This wasn't a difficult thing because I quickly realized that there was a problem. And I tried to telephone someone for help. The rest of the ranger station was about 3 miles in, and I tried to telephone my boss to send some help. And they fell, they weren't unconscious. Luckily, from what I understand, he drove through, my boss drove through a little while later and noticed that the woman just waved him as he came by and I was lying down on the floor in a cold room.
I was at an incident in Soviet Union, and I had an invitation from the United States. In 1975, I received this invitation. In 1976, I was given the exit visa, and I was leaving for New York that same, and I was coming to take my passport, and I was ready to fly. My family was already in the airport waiting for me. That time, on the sidewalk, I was hit, moved over, or run over by a car. It was fabricated by KGB. They wanted to kill me and not to let me go. And I was taken to hospital. Doctors did anything they could to help me, but I was declared dead. This is pretty much all over the world. We found this common pattern. They tell us that at this point where the doctor says they are dead, that they may actually hear the physician say, oh my, he's dead, or we lost her, or something like that. And they say that from their perspective, actually they still feel very much alive, indeed their consciousness is heightened. And they tell us that they seem to leave their physical bodies, and they say showed up typically right above the bed in the operating room or the emergency room, and they look down and they can see their own physical bodies lying on the bed down below.
I was above my body, I was floating, and there were people around me, except I didn't realize that that person there was me. Then all of a sudden I heard this statement, he's gone, he's gone. And it was the paramedic making that statement to the driver. At that point, I was standing behind the paramedic. I was watching him work on my body.
And suddenly there was commotion beneath me, and then I started noticing all of the people underneath me, and the EMS workers were pushing the stretcher down the hall, and I really wasn't concerned with my body. I was more concerned with, there were a couple of plainclothes policemen over where the guns were, and one of them was wrong about something, and I was trying to tell him that he was wrong.
I can see the soldiers and the nurses, the doctors, but they could not see me. And I went from ward to ward, bed to bed, trying to find soldiers that I thought they looked like me lying in bed. I was becoming more and more desperate, because, as I say, I could see these human beings, but I could not see anything. Finally, I went into this little isolated ward room, and showed up lying in the bed with the sheet pulled up over the head with this body that I had to recognize as me, because they had a primitive ring with the finger.
And there was this slight buzzing at the ear, and I felt myself pop out of the body. I don't know how I came out, I was just sort of out of the body. And I sat down on the head of the bed with a minute to look around. Then I felt myself float up to the ceiling, and I was looking down and said she was gone, and I couldn't believe it, and I thought, well, who's gone? And I was trying to look down to see, and I felt presence with me. Guardian angels is what they were, but I called them down.
I was suddenly looking at this light that seemed to be in the corner of the room. But the first thing I thought was, where did you come from? And she said, I've always been here, but you weren't able to see me before. The reason I use she is because she emanated feelings of selflessness, love, all-consuming love, understanding, kindness, and those were attributes that I thought of as feminine.
After a while in this, they say that they begin to feel an indescribable feeling of bliss, that it's something that transcends words, that we can't put it into the language that we have in everyday life. One man, for instance, told me that although he was in great pain in his chest prior to leaving his body, as soon as he left his body, that he was overcome with a tremendous sense of joy and peace, a kind of ecstasy.
There was absolute freedom of your soul and body, and this amazed me. This was very interesting too. I was happy to be in such experience because I could see their thoughts, I could see everything what was happening. I could smell, I could hear, and I could see their thoughts. This was the main thing, was very, very